Hi, I'm Pete. I've started making music back in 2020, that year, and I figured it's about time to start documenting that shit. I'm nervous as heck about like all of this, being in front of a camera. I don't really like cameras, but I'm getting used to them. And I also recognize that if there's no one around to hear a tree fall in the forest, it may just as well have kept standing. Why make the effort to fall and make a sound? So I've chopped down way too many trees, released too many songs, to have them go unnoticed and talked about, to not talk about them myself, because let's face it, I'm pretty passionate about what I do. So let's make a New Year's resolution right now on the 29th of December 2025. Or rather, let's make it a New Year's deal. I'll give you an update on what I'm cooking up in my DAW at least once a month. And in return, you'll at least listen to something before giving me your opinion on it. And now that that's settled, let's go ahead with the first song. Now let's do this whole one take again, but this time with the red button glowing. Hiya! Have you ever listened to a piece of music and thought to yourself, man, this is nice, but I wonder what it would sound like if it was more metal? I certainly do so on a regular basis, and one fine day this happened to me while listening to the soundtrack of Cyberpunk 2077, or rather the track of that soundtrack. It's called Spoiler. It was made by Hyper.
And it keeps you going.
And this thought kept nagging at me. So I dared my own attempt at fusing the style with heavy guitars and a gritty electric bass, and it sounds like this. Now you might have noticed that the guitars sound a bit flat and uninspired. That's because, unlike the bass, they are programmed. And to be clear, this does not mean that I used AI. Everything is being labeled AI nowadays, but this certainly isn't, and I have never used and will never use AI in my music. Why use artificial incompetence when I am perfectly capable of being incompetent of my own? Even better, by being incompetent myself to a certain degree and accepting that, I become less incompetent over time. So, back to guitar programming. It means that I have taken every single note I want the guitar to play, set its height, its duration, and the force for the guitar plugin to use. It then uses all of these information, and a few others, to go to its little internal, several gigabytes internal audio library, pick one small audio snippet from there that it has stored, and use that for this specific note. And you do this for every single note. You keep in mind that a guitar has only about 6 to 8 strings on average. A guitarist has at most 5 fingers on average on either hand, uses a pick, has techniques like bends and slides at their disposal. And if you're really thoughtful about this, you add a little bit of consistent inaccuracy to make it more human-like. And that is what you call guitar programming. You can do a lot with this, and I only scratch the surface. And I'm still not 100% happy with my programming here, because this was the first song on which I used this technique extensively. But I deemed it good enough, so I released the song anyway. Now, I bet you noticed that this song didn't go metal all the way, but that made it fit nicely into my album. It's called Memory Card, And for this, I took inspiration from some of my favorite games and wrote music that I felt would fit those games. And a 100% metal track would not have fit in there that well, like in between the rest of the songs. So instead of turning the metal dial to 11, I left it at the comfy 6. And that doesn't mean that I've never revisited that song to give it the full death metal makeover, a wall of hand played, shredded guitars, some harsh vocals, but that's a topic for a different video. This Metal to 11 song is not yet released, but if you subscribe and set your notification settings to all down there, you certainly won't miss it. But back to this comfy semi-metal video for now. While there are no vocals at this point, the lyrics for the death metal version hadn't been written at this point, there was a theme that I was working off. I always work off a theme when I work off a song, at least a theme. And if you've ever played Cyberpunk, you know that that game gives you choices. Choices like whether or not to give in to feelings of rage, revenge, and to do some pretty nasty things that send your moral compass spinning. At least it did with mine. So, and this is one of the reasons that I love that game so much. And it's this amalgamation of tough choices and regret from which I drew inspiration for this song. I think this long and rather quiet passage in the middle, where you only really have your electronic drums and your bass, they really give away that I was still thinking, operating mentally in the space of soundtracks, where keeping a certain flow and a certain vibe is essential. Here, it's a vibe of pushing ahead in spite of everything, while getting your hands dirty and even bloody from time to time. For me, this gritty bass and the strict monotonic drums, they epitomize the essence of this vibe. And while I'm not 100% satisfied with the execution, after all, I've learned a lot since then, I still like the choices that I made. And if you're into making music yourself, or if you practice any other art form, you know how rare it is to look back and think, yep, this is quite alright. And also, while we are at this song, can we just take a minute and appreciate just how bloody good programmed guitars can sound nowadays? Well, the programming itself, this thing I did with the height and the duration and stuff, is far from perfect in this case. I'm still a bit in awe of what plugins like these can do. I still try and get as much hand-shredded guitars into my songs as possible. But as a songwriter, purchasing this plugin, it made my creativity and my productivity explode. And it even made me buy my own 28-inch scale baritone guitar sitting over there. You can't see it, but I still love it. and of which I'm sure you will hear that in one of my upcoming songs. And again, if you don't want to miss new songs when they get out, or if you're just interested in hearing me ramble on about stuff I did, gear I love, my love for music, and art in general, then the subscribe button is your friend. You can listen to my songs through the links in the video description below. Hot contestants for my next video are my songs Prayer to the Mighty Mainframe and Conveyor Belts. Now, these two were written for the worlds of Battletech and Factorio, respectively. Just tell me which one to cover first. Down in the comments below. Both songs were challenging in their own unique way for me, and I'm still pretty happy with both of them. Thanks for staying with me this far. See you next time.